There's nowhere else to do something like this. It's the love of the sport or something. It makes it complicated in the fact that you don't find something with love of family anywhere else. The hard question is, it's just the camaraderie is the best place to find it. Just like if you would in football, but you don't get that love where everybody's allowed on the field, if you will. Yeah, family can't be right next to the track. That's the thing. Right here, they're right next to us. That's the hard question, is that family can be right next to you on the track, right at the grid, 10 feet from you. That's the easy part. The hard part is to having the family watch you when you do go down.
And I know that's what it's like for a lot of these guys. You can see them in the pits. When it's time to put on that helmet, it's like a gladiator or soldier going to war. And that's what a lot of them are doing.
You see guys crashing really fast, and you get up to them expecting the worst. And they'd be laughing. They'd be like, oh my God, that was dumb, you know? It's like, how are you laughing right now? Your bike is half the size it was. Your suit looks like you've been through a blender, and you're still having a good time, like you're still laughing about it.
I, of course, want to see the sport sustain itself into the future, and if riders are getting hurt, that just decreases their longevity in the sport.
The adrenaline you get from doing this, I know after 30 years of racing, even now when my race comes up, I am nervous. I'm sitting in the pits trembling. It's that the adrenaline you get, the anticipation. The minute I get on the grid though, it all goes away. These guys are all type A's, every one of them. You know, that's why they're out here, and they all think they're the best, and they all think they're the fastest. They all demand a lot of attention. We're just here to try to keep things in order and running smoothly, despite what they do. Sometimes they do some things that they can't even explain why they do it. So in 1992, we had a little incident out at the track. Actually, it wasn't a little incident, it was a major incident that caused us to re-examine our track. We used to come through turn 9 and turn 10 and come out onto the drag strip here. There's grass over in the center that you can see, and we used to go by that and onto the drag strip. And it was really bad when it would rain, which it does here a lot, of course, because the VHT that they use for the drag strip gets very, very slippery when it gets wet. And people would crash on the front straight here when it was wet. A gentleman by the name of James Bailey was out here racing, came down onto the straightaway, crashed, was up against the far wall, was crawling across the track, and another bike came and hit him and killed him. At that point, we had to determine we need to do something to make the track a little bit safer and slow the speeds down, possibly not get onto the drag strip at all if we could find a way to do that. The first thing we did was we installed what we called the bus stop to slow the bikes down before they enter the straightaway. And a few years later, we got the track to go ahead and allow us to start running down the inner track so that we weren't on the drag strip at all, which really, the drag racers really like it, because we're not doing anything to their track, not spilling anything on it, causing any problem for them. They can work on their track while we're here racing, which they do like that, not having to wait for us. And it made the track by far safer than it was when we started racing. You have to remember, we started racing in the 70s. The bikes were 60s, early 70s style bikes, which weren't fast at all. A lot of the smaller Ninja 250s are faster than the old race bikes used to be. So as this evolves and the bikes get faster, the lines change on the track, our safety conditions change as the bikes get faster and faster. This is the bus stop. As we said, we come around turn 9 and into the bus stop and then down the straightaway here. It didn't used to be here, and you can see that, imagine how fast you can go. And the cars don't use the bus stop, only us on motorcycles do. The cars come through here at elevated speed and go around the corner. You're probably talking 60 to 70 mile an hour difference. And with these bikes nowadays, close to 200 miles an hour at the end of the straightaway, if there's anything we can do to slow them down a little bit, we'll do that. This is the tree that was planted by the club years ago in honor of James. There's a plaque here commemorating James. It's a nice spot where you can come sit in the shade. There's not a lot of shade here. It gets really hot in the pavement. So spectators can sit here in the shade of the tree that we put here for James and watch the bus stop, which is because of James. So this club owes a lot to his family. I mean, we lost a racer and a great friend to a lot of people, but what we've learned from it and what this club has gained is huge, and we owe him that respect to make sure that it doesn't happen what happened to him and that we get better because of it.
There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. The bikes are real high maintenance, you know, you got to keep up on them. If you don't, they don't perform the way you need them to. I don't push as hard as a lot of these guys, you know. I have to go to work on Monday. You know, like I have things to lose, so I have to be extra cautious, to make sure that I can finish races safely. You know, I can't go out and just crash and be like, oh, somebody will fix my bike or somebody will pay for my gear. Like, that all comes out of my pocket. And if I can't work, I can't pay to race. And if I can't fix my bike, I can't race. So there's times when you're trying to figure out how to get by a racer, that's when it turns into a chess game. You know, you study them, you know what their entries and exits are. You figure out where you're faster, where you can outbrake them. Like, you just all these moves that you can make. I mean, everybody knows that this is dangerous. There's probably quite a bit more caution than there is on the pro level when all they do is they go from track to track to track. And they got sponsors that pick up the tab, and they got, they don't have to worry about, I got to go to work on Monday. You know, their work is I got to get on another bike on Monday.
I have had some injuries, of course. I mean, it's not a if, it's a when in this sport, and you have to accept that. And you take the precautions. You have the right gear. You don't buy the $50 helmet. You wear the good helmet. You know, it's all of these things add up to improving your consistency or safety when you're out there. And then some of my accidents have been the best thing that have ever happened to me in terms of learning. You know, and that's a 10,000 foot level to tell you about that. But when I broke my leg, this is going back, it was honestly one of the best things that ever happened at the end of the day. We were doing really well in the series, and I crashed near the beginning of the year in Portland and broke my leg really badly. I had amazing surgery, great surgeon, and I was told effectively that that might be it for my career, or even like walking to some extent. But I was a little bit persistent. Maybe that's the word I'll use. People probably use other words. But when I got back on the bike, literally 6 weeks later, I was determined to just get back on the bike. I couldn't ride the bike in the same way. I couldn't get the lap time. And so at that time, we're paying bills through results, right? And it forced me to look at a different way to still achieve the results. And so it took me close to the end of the season, but I started to figure out and think about things in a different way. And then come back, now I fast forward to the next year, with that new learning, that new paradigm, the new perspective, however you want to word it, I now had my physicality back. It forced me to adapt, or to evolve, maybe is a better word, as a rider. And then it just gave me better perspective. There's lots of talk. You know, I think it's an interesting time. I'm certainly not a young guy. I mean, I've been doing this a long time. I won't date myself just to save myself from this conversation. But, I'm a dinosaur for the game. But we're still going reasonably fast, and my commitment to myself is we're still having fun. We're at the front. We're still breaking records. And it's more now, not so much about the results for me, it's more about the culture. A lot of the reasons why we don't have many crashes or accidents is the level of preparation. Look at the people who are successful in the game, and I guarantee they're not coming to the track half prepared. You know, they're none of those kind of things. They are running a more precise environment, a precise ecosystem.
People think you come out here, we hop on a bike and we go race, but there's so much on the back end that has to happen before we can go race. When you want to race, you have to kind of go through kind of like a stepping ladder. So they put you into a novice class with other new riders to where you're kind of on the same knowledge and speed base. The biggest thing is we have a rule book. So in that rule book, all of this stuff is laid out to the letter. This needs to be safety wired, that needs to be safety wired. So first becoming familiar with the rule book and familiar with your bike, and just it comes with practice. You know, when we set these bikes up, we do a lot of work on drilling bolts and putting things on, putting on crash protection, sliders and things like that, to where you just kind of learn as you go. A few things that we have to look at are the things that hold fluids back. That's our biggest concern. So our coolant caps, our oil caps, our oil drain bolts, anything that's gonna hold a fluid back has to be safety wire and tight and torqued down. We run tire warmers because we run waste tires. The tires operate at a certain temperature to make them function the way that they were built. So if we go out there on a cold tire, we have less traction. A heated tire gives us a little bit more grip and we can go a lot faster. Our axle nuts tight, have it safety wired to where even if it did come loose for whatever reason, it won't separate from the bike, which would definitely give the rider a chance to notice that something just doesn't feel right back there. You can't see it how this bike's set up now, but if you take off the fairings, you can see all of his oil drain bolts and everything underneath the bike are also safety wired. And we have our tech inspectors who do this every round. They're 100% super familiar with that rule book to where we can go over this bike in a pretty quick time, couple minutes to tech a bike and know what is and not correct on the bike. Some of the safety wire stuff is like this one on Seppi's bike is the front brake caliper. So we have our caliper here, we have our 2 mounting bolts. They're tight, and if you can see how the wire's wrapped around to prevent it from backing out even if the bolt was loose. And we also have them safety wired, so then if it does get hit, breaks or anything, it won't separate from the bike. It stays contained in the box of the bike right there. There's a lot of people who give up their time and effort to come out here and make sure us racers can have fun. So we want you just to experience that. So setting up air fins, taking air fins down, doing tech inspectors, spending a day corner working. So you have to get that stuff all checked off and do at least once before you're allowed to graduate, just so you know what it takes and has you respect the sport and what we do to make this go a little bit better.
It matters to keep the riders that are racing on track safe. They're not going to have any mechanical issues. It's going to cause issues for themselves and others. So it's 100% for the safety of all riders on the racetrack. Rear axle looks awesome. Valve cap, wheel weights are done. Let's find this master link. Oh, master links are riveted. Good job. Oil filters taken care of. This is a clean bike, Micah. Good job. Small things that they forget. Usually it has nothing to do with the intent of the rider and everything to do with, there's a lot going on when you're race prepping a motorcycle. Looks good. Brake caliper bolts, pinch bolts, front axle. Good job. The other side, no wheel weights on this one. Linkage is tight, good job. And let's see here, we got master link. Oh, I see it's riveted, good job. Alrighty. Some people get irritated, but I think that everybody at the end of the day understands that, we do this for the safety of all. So I think that everybody truly understands. It kind of is irritating at the time where you have to fail somebody. It sucks for everybody, but everybody understands why.
I am.
Nice. Can I see your tech sheet? Perfect.
Last time I was going through tech here, it was right before I broke my collarbone. So now.
Well, you know what? That's not gonna happen this time.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Rear brake operation is good. Rear wheel weight taped, good job. When you soak the straightaway with oil all the way down and they have to shut down the racetrack for an hour or two to clean it all up, it makes you double check your stuff. I would say, if you plan on racing an upcoming year, it takes probably that winter to make sure that you have your bike completely ready. I mean, that's about as much time as I gave myself was, I knew by the end of the track day season that I was going to race the following year and was paying attention for the novice race school coming up, and that as well as talking to WMRRA to make sure that I understood everything needed to prep my bike, because they're very open about what we need to do to get our bike ready.
I started back in '87. Used to had a bike, started riding. Me and some people rode aggressively on the streets. Kind of figured out about WMRRA. Some of the guys in our group raced, came to a race. Some more of the people started racing. Some of us became race day staff. And that's kind of how it all started.
And they're like, holy shit, that's quick.
Thing I like about the track, everyone works together. It's family. We call it a tribe. Well, we learn from everything. I've learned over the years. I tell people the best days and worst days of my life have been here. I have watched a handful of my friends die out here. but you know, they're doing what they love. They know the risk. I don't want to ever see my friends get hurt.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. I mean, broken bikes. Broken bikes is another thing, you know. I don't like being bored.
Yeah.
I understand people don't want me to work, and I always tell, you know, say, you know, me being bored a day is good for all the racers. The first time was pretty bad. It bothered me for a while. I didn't even really know the guy, but just watching the whole process. Had to talk to the wife and all that kind of stuff. Now for me, it's just, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm kind of killed something inside me. I don't know. But I just do my job. I mean, I understand the risks now, I guess. It is what it is. I do the best I can. We all do. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. That's the main thing. I mean, broken bikes, that's part of the game out here. I don't know. I've seen some entertaining stuff. I love adrenaline. So you get to a bike, or you get the call that it's like, oh, you're going to have fun with this one. You know, as long as the rider's okay, I'm good with it. So I've talked to other people that have done my kind of position for different organizations, and they normally say they did it for a few years and then got out of it because, oh, I saw my friend get in a bad crash and stuff like that, so I just had to get out of it. I'm here because I've seen my friend get in a bad crash.
Yeah.
If I can help, I want to be there for it. You know, this is my family. If I can help them, I want to be there. You know, that's the kind of thing. If someone does bail here and they go to the hospital, it's the people here that pack up all his gear and get his gear home and everything else for him and make sure he's okay. We send people to the hospital to keep on checking up on him and everything else. It's a family. You know, get to a rider, how are you? Oh, I'm fine, and load him and the bike up and get him back to the pits, and the wife is there. She's like, how are you? Oh, broke my collarbone again. It's like, dude, you said you were okay. It's like, it's just a collarbone.
Good times. Following one of the other racers going into the bus stop, right on his tail, probably 2.5, 3 feet off his back tire. I went to the outside of the corner just a hair to get better view of the bus stop. Hit an inside curb. I think still on my brakes. I'm not 100% sure, but the bike came back over top of me, bucked me off. I went over the bars, hit me in the back of the head, and then I landed flat on my back and head. I think breaking my shoulder. So it's all part of it. It's all part of it. So when it comes down to suits, you have to have a good suit. You have to have a spine protector. You got to have a kidney belt. Mandatory. I mean, I'm walking away from something that's pretty aggressive. Good helmets. I wear OMRRA only. I've tested them, unfortunately, a few too many times, and I've always walked away, quote unquote, unscathed mentally.
Racers, I mean, when they crash and stuff like that, definitely all kinds of emotions, but normally, I mean, to me, they're normally good. You know, stuff like that, you know. Some of them are surprisingly good. So seem incredibly happy, so, you know. Hey, Crash, haven't seen you in a long time. I've been here so long, I've had assistants, normally my assistants with me for a year. And a lot of times they'll get a girlfriend or get married or whatever and have to kind of get out of it. Or racers, same type of thing. They'll be racing, it's like, oh, you know, having a kid, so I have to stop racing. I haven't found anyone not to tell me to do this, and I love it, so I'm doing it.
Crash? I love that guy. I think he's like one of the most underrated staff members. He's a good dude. Working with him is a great time. Many days where we would be sitting there, nothing would be happening. People would be riding good, no crashes, no nothing, and we'd just be having a hoot in his truck. It was a good time. He knows that truck really well, I'll tell you that much. Doing 3 wheels around turns. You see guys crashing really fast, and you get up to them expecting the worst. And they'd be laughing. They'd be like, oh my God, that was dumb, you know? It's like, how are you laughing right now? Your bike is half the size it was. Your suit looks like you've been through a blender, and you're still having a good time, like you're still laughing about it. I love that. We have all of these things that help prevent those worst case scenarios, but sometimes they just don't work. They might work, but the conditions might not be, they might be too extreme for what they're meant to handle. We as a community have to come together and support each other in those instances. I've seen it a few times where the community, part of why this community is such an amazing place is that everybody comes together and just throws massive support. we support each other. We support the friends of those that have not come home. We've supported the family of those who have not come home, and watching that, being part of that, and also being on the sidelines watching how many people come in and support is incredible. But it's the other side of that is it makes that big of a wave.
It all depends. Every crash is different. A lot of times when the bike crashes, we have the corner workers out there, so the bike will kind of go down, and then we're listening for the call on how the rider is and the track condition. Is the rider up and okay, and is the bike in a safe location? If that is the case, then the race continues. We keep on going. If the rider is still on the track or the bike's still on the track, the rider's not moving, we have to red flag the race. We have to stop all the bikes out there. At that point, then, once the bikes go around, I follow the last bike, and I'm normally the first on the scene.
This crew amazes me. For all the years I've been doing it, the harder things get and the worse the conditions are, the more they step up, and they do it without any instruction at all. A lot of them, they just know what needs to be done and they do it. And I don't know any other race organizations that I've heard that has people that the experience they have in some of these positions. I mean, you're talking some of these kids have been here 20 years. I brought them in 2000. They were just friends of my daughter's, and now they're in positions, whether it be course marshal, track steward, pit stewards, registration. I mean, my brother's control. I'm race director. My son's pit gate. My grandson's a track exit. My other grandson's racing with us. He's over here doing corner working. It's a big family event, and everybody here is family.
I guess not the advent of track days, but the start of track day companies really started bringing and introducing more street riders into the sport. And I don't know if I have no data that tells me how many street riders race, but a lot of them end up trying it out. When I started racing in 1984, there was no novice school. We just paid our money, lined up, and went. And it was pretty darn scary. Now there's novice schools, you got to go through a class to get your endorsement, and then there's advanced schools you can go to. There's all these training things that is available now that wasn't when I started. So I think we're seeing a lot more people coming into the sport because of track days. But the biggest thing is keep them safe. We gotta keep them out here and keep them safe if they wanna come and return and come out and do days.
The other thing I'll say too about WMRRA and OMRRA, WMRRA's coming up on its 50-year anniversary this year. The race organization, you've never had such a sense of family. You know, people that I race against, they'll come over and help me fix my bike, even if they think that I'm gonna beat them. They'll come over here and lend me parts and help me work on my bike, even though we're racing against each other. It's just a great sense of family, and I like it when the competition stays friendly, and I think that most people try to keep it friendly. Like, the whole world could be falling apart, and as soon as I close the lid on my helmet, everything goes away. And I literally just have like a complete break. Like, I'm 1,000% present for that 20 minutes of that race, and anything else that's going on in my life does not matter. Anytime you ride motorcycles, people think that you're crazy, and people think that you have a death wish. Inherently though, first off, riding motorcycles at the racetrack is actually pretty safe.
I've crashed. Everybody I know practically has crashed. Nobody's really gotten hurt, and it's always been single rider inputs that are not proper for what the motorcycle can handle at that moment. But they don't know that until they do it, and then they crash and wonder what happened. So that's the first thing we ask them: do you know what happened? And we want to explain that to them so they don't do it again. Okay, go ahead and get on the bike. All right. So for us, we're trying to get the bike happy with the rider, and we have specific techniques and drills we can do that will make the bike happy, and then that in turn makes the rider happy. First thing we're going to do is push all the way back. He's going to get his head down, and now his head's going to come over here, which weights this foot peg and is telling the motorcycle we're going right.
So now he's going to go back to the center, and we practice going the other way, because we all have a favorite side. And we need to not have a favorite side. We need to play both sides equally well. When we sit straight up and down, move up. Now we're telling the bike that it wants to go straight. We're telling it to go straight because our body is down the center line of the motorcycle. So that tells the bike we're going straight. And that is a big problem for a lot of people. They have that issue. So that's what we've been working on, is body position, is eyes and his body position. Everything follows your eyes, everything. So the quicker we get our eyes moving, the quicker we can put ourselves in the proper position. His eyes need to move sooner. His body position needs to happen a little sooner. And we're taking away lean angle by giving body position. He's tightened his core by breathing out, and so that connects the top half with the bottom half. So the more pressure he can put on that foot peg, the quicker the motorcycle is going to turn. So it's just this little part of his leg and his foot on the foot peg. Go ahead and let go of the bars. So there's no weight on his hands. That's what the motorcycle likes. Go ahead. You see how far he's off here? All of this weight is transferring down to his toe. Every student is different, you know, and that's the hardest part about this job, is trying to pick out what is holding them back actually, and what is just kind of an easy fix bad habit. The guys that want to tell you how they do it and how it is for them are a lot harder to get through to. The core stuff is exactly the same, but how I get to that point is different with every single rider, every single one. What happens here, if somebody has an accident, it's a single occupant accident. It's not two motorcycles coming together. That's pretty rare. And that on the street is the #1 reason why we crash, lack of focus. So a dog, a bird, a car, whatever happened, and just that quick, and now things have changed and you don't have control of the situation anymore. So the farther you can put your brain out ahead of you, the sooner you can make the adjustments you need to with no drama. I've always got students, always. So for me to be able to help other people at the same time, I'm just walking back and forth to the bathroom or down to his pits, and I talk to people along the way. How's your day going? You having any problems? Any issues we can take care of? And usually they'll tell me their situation with their riding, and I can help them out, and they're already wanting to learn and listen because I've approached them in a manner to where they're open to it. I was just talking to a couple guys right down the row here, a new kid who's only been out here twice, and he was asking somebody about using the rear brake, which we don't do until you get to a fairly accomplished level. And the guy that he was talking to invited me over, and he said, "Hey, how much rear brake do you use?" I said, "None." And that was the confirmation this kid needed, because he was arguing with the other guy about, well, so-and-so told me if I use the rear brake, it's better. And it's just, until you get to a very high level, it's not necessary. 95% of our braking is on the front. And you see these big, huge brakes? And once you teach people how to use those brakes, it's changes their world. It really does. And I can do that right here in the parking lot. We don't have to go out on track. And a lot of times that's all it takes for some people, is just that one little thing. But you have to find that nugget in the big stack of nuggets. And that's really hard. That's the biggest problem here. People want to ride with their buddies. They want video of them doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing. And it just turns into a melee because they're competing with each other for the best video. I talked to a guy about that coming in yesterday. He was focused on his camera more than he was focused on where he was going. So I had to go and talk to him and say, hey, look, if you want to do video, that's great. Wait till you get off the track before you start messing with it or looking at it or trying to adjust it. Just wait. It's not that important to risk yourself and somebody else's self by not being able to have your focus where it needs to be.
If you feel something's not right, if you feel something isn't happening the way that it should be, speak up about it. Don't be shy. Don't hold it in and think that it's just you. You're not the first person that's had this problem. I guarantee somebody else has had the same problem as you at least one time before. If you just ask around, you'll find somebody that knows the right answer. The biggest problem is that they don't even understand that they are having a problem, that they think that that's just the way that it is, that that's how the bike is, that they just got to ride around whatever that problem is and never address it directly. And I'm working on the Gixxer here that's got an ignition delete problem. Customer states that the bike won't power up when he turns it on. Yeah, ECU powers up because of tach cycles, but nothing else actually happens. It's all inside this little guy. How'd that get unplugged? This is part of the pair delete, but this got pulled off of there. Grab some pliers. Well, that isn't helping matters either. That's an injector plug. Yeah, I don't know how that even got that way. So this is your ignition delete from Woodcraft, and sometimes the little resistor that's inside here that sends the anti-theft device signal back to the ECU that allows it to turn on can go bad, and they need to be replaced. It's not the first time I've seen this, unfortunately. You never know what you're gonna find. Okay, 13.3, that's good. As the customer stated, it's only 3 wires, I don't understand why it doesn't work. Because there's more to the problem, unfortunately. That's what that plug is. Which now is only a clutch switch for those 2 wires. Because you gotta have a clutch switch on these or they won't start. Looks like I'm gonna have to get into the tail section and see if I can start checking out relays and whatnot. A little bit of safety wire goes a long way when you're trying to do some diagnostics on a bike. Okay, that could be a problem. Nothing getting to the control relay to even tell it to turn on, so it's something upstream from that.
So I started off as a racer, and I realized that that's really expensive, and sometimes it's easier to be the dealer than it is the addict. So here's my pile of drugs, is this tire trailer. So. I have about a 4 to 5 month window in the Northwest where I'm pretty much living out of the RV and the trailer, and have tires shipped into the tracks and to the shop at Pacific Raceway.
Practice section number 10, this is yours.
Most people kind of know when the bike starts slipping and sliding around, it's time to put new stuff on, but that depends on budget too. Sometimes I think people try to stretch stuff out a little too far and wind up tipping over. Putting the better side on the right because this is primarily a right-hand track. So kind of helps extend the life of the tire a little bit. It's like all things, you know, the faster you go on it, the quicker it wears out.
The best bet ever.
Been on the racing side since the late 90s. So The race tire side of everything, I think the first year I was involved in race tires was probably around 07, 06, 07. I've done Pirelli, I've done Michelin, I've done Dunlop, I've done Bridgestone. So you can see his is still round. If you kind of look down on top of this, you can see where from here to here has just been worn out past the wear dots, almost getting into the carcass, and similar to the left side too. So you see if you look down on it, the tire's not round anymore. They do put dots on the slicks, like there's a wear dot right here. There used to be one right here, and then there's one up here. So you can see that these are considerably worn out. So when you look at the profile of a new one, you can actually see that it's round. And those are the wear dots that we were talking about. So if you compare the wear dots on a new one versus those two are almost non-existent. This one's completely gone. The wear dots are how we tell how much rubber you've burned off of them. Where on a treaded tire, usually you have the tread depth and you have tread wear indicators. You have, people trying to run like too soft of a compound on too cold of a track. They'll start tearing. And then, everybody rushes to their buddies, they rush to the internet, they start looking for excuses as far as why the tire is tearing. Sometimes it could be track abrasion, sometimes it could be track temperature. If you run too soft of a tire on too cold of an asphalt, it will tear. It doesn't matter what brand it is, doesn't matter how your suspension's set up, doesn't matter what the internet professionals say. A lot of it is just compound and asphalt temperature related and nothing more than that. We get a lot of first time people that show up to track days and they're like on a sport touring tire or something like that that's really meant to commute, commute in the rain, and then they bring them out here and start pushing them a little harder and get way outside the temperature range that the tire's designed for. And it starts getting slippery, greasy, and you go, it just doesn't have the level of grip that a track tire would. Sometimes you get people that they clean their bike up and they'll put tire shine on the tires, and that is just death for grip. It looks cool on like your trailer tire or something, but you definitely don't want tire shine or any chemicals like that around race tires.
I think a lot of guys have voodoo in their head. It's what I call voodoo in their head. And it's like, I won't run a certain tire brand because I crashed on the street on an off-ramp in the rain 10 years ago, and now I won't ever run that tire brand because I crashed. On the street, you might go 60, 80 miles an hour, but on the racetrack, you could potentially go 200 plus miles an hour every time down the straightaway. People like to wear tires all the way until they're almost gone. The tires has a certain thickness. What that thickness is, it's like a blanket, and that blanket keeps the heat in the tire. The heat in the tire allows the tire to be soft. A hard tire is like a hockey puck, and a hockey puck doesn't have good grip. Tire vibration comes in many different forms. You can either get vibration through an unbalanced tire. If you're gonna upgrade your bike ever, especially for the track, the best upgrade you can get probably for your money would be the tires first. That's the first thing that's in direct contact with the ground. Getting tires, selecting tires, is kind of like selecting sneakers. If you're playing basketball, you want basketball sneakers. If you're playing tennis, you want tennis sneakers. So it's the same thing with tires. If you're riding in the rain, you're gonna want rain tires. If you're riding in the dry at a high performance level, you're gonna want slicks. And so depending on your pace, depends on how much heat you get into the tire, which also depends on what compounds you would select. When we get a tire in, what we do is we look at the rim, we break the bead, We demount it off the rim, and then we inspect it. We look at the rotor, if it's straight, the wheel is straight, put on the new tire, put it in the proper direction, as well as find the heavy spot of the wheel and line it up and match it up with the heavy spot of the tire. The wheel's straight, the rotors are straight, the tires is put on the proper direction, and everything is set properly.
Just try to be a better educator to your customers so that they're more aware of what it is that they're working on and with, and how important it is for their safety and for everybody else's around them. People tend to either buy used bits off of eBay and whatnot that are for the wrong motorcycle. GSXR shocks are really common to find on a lot of different bikes, and or lesser expensive cartridge kits, and then you have buyer's remorse 3 months down the road when it just isn't doing what you thought it was going to do. All these things lead to confidence in your riding. And if you don't feel confident in the platform underneath you, you can't go fast. You're never gonna trust the lean angle. You're never gonna trust the speed. You're never gonna trust braking really, really late with the package. It's an unknown quantity underneath you. There's so much misinformation out there in the forums because a lot of what is being repeated by other people is just something that they heard or something that they've read online and have never either done themselves or have no real backing of information on what it is they're talking about.
You can't do this sport without relying on other people. I think, you know, here I'm pitted with a bunch of other racers, and we help each other out all the time. People with very different backgrounds, with very different experiences, but this sport kind of brings us together. Every time I crash, you know, there's kind of two things that I run into. One, which is like a fear of getting back on the bike, but then usually when I work through that, I end up faster after I've made adjustments and I've learned. I don't think that you can get faster without crashing. This is my main bike. This is from yesterday. I've been racing it all year last year, and yesterday I sent it in the wall between turn 5 and 6. The throttle cable got stuck, and it just basically didn't stop going until it hit the wall. So, fortunately, I was able to walk away unscathed. I don't know how. I ended up also bumping into the wall, but I think I just kind of rolled into it in a safe way, I guess. Fortunately, both my helmet and my suit did a good job of protecting. I can reuse my suit, but my helmet's completely busted, so I had to get a new one today. Well, since this is the last race of the season, it kind of works out. I'm gonna rebuild it over the winter, get a new frame, and probably get it tuned up as well. But for the most part, it didn't damage too many critical parts. Surprisingly, I don't think that I actually have had anyone talk me out of it. I definitely feel like I knew what I was getting into when I got into it. So people who aren't familiar with racing are quite shocked when I tell them that I've crashed, but being familiar with the sport, it's part of it. Fortunately, it's a pretty tight-knit community, and one of the racers that I knew pretty well, Lauren, he quit racing earlier this year, it seems, and one of the other racers knew that and gave a call last night, and he showed up this morning with a special delivery, and I was able to actually keep racing. I actually don't know. I think I'm going to make it pink and yellow, just like the other bike. But I'm kind of trying to figure out, I might do some new colors next year. I might do something with blue or maybe even green, but I haven't figured that out yet.
I was born at the end of the 80s, but like if you look at the leathers that were out then, the back protectors, the helmets, like I grabbed some of my uncle's old leathers or my dad's old leathers, and I was like, you guys wear these? Like they don't have any hard armor, right? Like it's a double layer of leather is like the hard, you know, protective area. Fast forward to today, you know, helmet, make sure the right fitment. So Bruce Porter at OMRRA got our family, you know, connected up with OMRRA helmets, and we've been in them from the beginning. I remember him grabbing the back of my head and, you know, saying, oh, that's a medium, you know, here's the cheek pads you need. Like it was amazing, right? And so being able to have those connections to, you know, get a helmet that fits right. Like it was a lot of money back in the day to be able to just buy a helmet, but it was well worth it, right? When you go down and you're maybe not fit with the correct helmet, like what's what's your brain worth?
Helmet safety is important because, well, we only get one brain. So we want to do everything that we can to make sure we protect it from impacts, injuries, that sort of thing. Concussions are never fun out here. It's not a good day when somebody has to tell you your own home address. I wouldn't say your friends would give you the best advice. I would say a good idea is to find a local business, a motorcycle shop, someplace that has employees there who know the products, know how fitment works, essentially, or you can usually call up companies directly and speak to somebody there. So I've seen people grab helmets plenty of times. I've worked at motorcycle dealerships in the past, and usually first thing I will ask them is, how does it fit? They almost will always tell me it fits good. I ask them, give me a little head shake. I want to see what it's doing, and it's always doing this floating motion on them. And I go, okay, when a helmet's brand new like that, ideally we're aiming for a comfortable helmet. However, for the helmet to do its job, it's got to fit correctly. The correct fitting helmet is going to be a snug fitment, almost when they're brand new, almost to that point of being a little bit uncomfortable, because the interior headliners, cheek pads, all that stuff, it'll conform over time to your head shape and loosen up. I've been around motorcycles my entire life. I've always understood it's worth spending a few extra dollars to protect our brains. Like I said, we only get one of those guys. So usually a $700, $800, $900 helmet is a lot less expensive than a trip to the emergency room. People have their preferences, their favorites. I myself, I'm an OMRRA guy. The bad information that needs to be dispelled, well, it's just a helmet. Aren't they all the same? They're really not. For example, the higher end helmets are usually going to be comprised of a fiberglass shell instead of a polycarbonate or plastic shell helmet like you see on some of the lower entry-level helmets. The main difference between the fiberglass shells and the polycarbonate shells is when they fall with your head in there and they take an impact, it'll actually disperse that energy around the entire outer surface of the helmet, which reduces that energy transfer through the EPS liner, through the foam to your head, therefore reducing head injuries. Each helmet has about a lifespan of roughly 5 years, depending on how well you maintain them. Just about any helmet out there nowadays is going to have a removable headliner, cheek pads. It's always a good idea to pull those guys out, wash them out with some nice mild soap and water. For example, I know that the OMRRAs, once you remove all of the interior padding there, you can even take a damp microfiber and then wipe out all the sweat, the hair product, hair gel, all that kind of stuff that accumulates on the EPS foam. And over time, that'll deteriorate that foam and make it brittle. So on the surface, it looks fine, but as soon as it takes an actual impact, it has a tendency to kind of just popcorn and just disintegrate in there, and that's where you get the serious head injuries.
Now in my suit, it's the Magello Dainese D-Air suit, so it has multiple accelerometers in it. It's got an airbag in it. It'll keep track of your lap times with the data logger in it. That stuff did not exist, back when the sport was, evolving. And so being able to, invest in good protective gear is absolutely at the top of that priority list for me if I'm going to be doing something as risky as racing.
Definitely our suit is not cheap, nor it is light. It's slightly heavier than other products because we are using thicker leather in order to protect the body. That was a regular, nothing special design. So just for chicks and giggles, we thought, okay, I'm gonna flip that inside out so we can see the craftsmanship, how properly everything is done. It's of very good quality. And again, here you can see easily the double layer leather on your butt with that cushion I just mentioned. That's going to protect your butt. And then on the forearm, we got in the elbow area, we got the double layer leather, which is super important. All the stitching is perfectly done. Everything is cut perfectly in shape. So this is why we flipped that inside out, and we noticed that people have never seen this before. Even me riding for 25 years plus, I never flipped the suit inside out. This is why we did it here, and it tells about the craftsmanship from our factory. There is people that are aware of what can happen. There is other people that think, you know, yeah, I'm protected, this is good enough for me. The off-the-rack $1,200 suit is good enough for me. I'm just going slow, and this is when I, you know, interrupt them saying, no, that's the wrong mindset. Everybody can crash. So people can see how that is built. So this is going to be your chest, on the side of your chest. This bladder is going to go down. This is your shoulder bladder that's going to protect your shoulder, and then you got the airbag that's going to protect your whole back. Underneath the back protector, this is from an older version Tech Race. This comes with the 2 canisters. We cannot replace the canisters separately. So I've seen suits, they are way too big. So what's going to happen if it's way too big on your elbow, for instance? The suit, when you crash, the suit will twist on your arm, and you will get hurt on your elbow or on your shoulder, on your knees.
Attention in the paddock, attention in the paddock. There's a mandatory riders meeting going to happen over by registration or pit gate, whatever you want to refer to it as, at between 2:30 and 2:40 this afternoon. Mandatory attendance. I've been with the Washington Motorcycle Roadracing Association for a total of 22 years. I've been at this particular position, which is known as race control, since 2013. Prior to that, for 7 years, I was the course marshal, basically responsible for the maintaining the equipment and setting up the tracks and tearing down the tracks and the air fence that you see out there and those turns and stuff. Well, besides the fact that you're too close to somebody else's radio, I heard you fine, thank you. I was getting a little bit of feedback from somebody that was close by you there.
We don't generally have 2 riders meetings in a day, but today we have to because of stuff that's going on. So we have to let the riders know, hey, this is what's going to happen.
Lightweight Super Sport Ninja 250, female lightweight, third and final call for Q. The only technology that's come around and changed anything is the inflatable vests that they have out now, and they're not required to wear them. But pretty much it's still all in their control. It's how far they want to push it. My responsibilities as race control is to make sure that things keep moving throughout the day, that I'm in contact with all corners, that they are my eyes and ears. If they have a bike down out there, they inform me of it, then I inform the network of it, then we move assets around, start moving when they hear me call out. Pit gate, you are clear to release Q3. Air fence is exactly what it says. It's a block, a 6x4 block that constructs a frame which looks a lot like the skeleton of a house. It has the same pitch and stuff on top so water can run off. Within the framework, or the foam framework that holds it up and together, is nothing but air. And inside that block is enough cubic feet of air. When hit upon impact, the flaps, there's 2 flaps on top that will go up. The flaps will come up to discharge that air, as well as there's 4 dime-sized holes in each corner of that.
Our air fence crew, we've got some great guys that they come out on Thursday evening and put the stuff up and then take it down on Sunday night. You can see, if you run off here, and I've had last year I had a complete and total brake failure on a bike that I was riding, and the amount of, you've got some distance here from this wall, but it goes away really quickly when you run off there at 100 miles an hour and you're riding on grass, and you can't get the motorcycle stopped in time, so you end up impacting tire wall out here. And I'm not sure exactly where I hit, but it's somewhere out here.
We got minimal air fence back then because, it's expensive. Minimal amount of air fence back then, 15 years ago, was probably 10 grand. And so it, as bikes became faster and faster as they have, we realized we need more air fence, right, for a lot of the hazard areas. And I think that's when the idea of the Film Fest came up. Obviously, Chris Page and Matt O'Rourke, they were vice president at that time, and they said, we have some contacts at Hollywood Theater, and we could, do a film fest in the winter, which is when all of us racers are just chomping at the bit and bored anyway, so we could use the distraction. Hold this film fest and take all the proceeds and put it towards air fence and safety. Which was, a great idea. I don't think OMRRA could afford air fence, but they realized that they couldn't afford not to have air fence. They couldn't afford to risk that on their riders and their racers, especially with, turn 5, 6. It's a fast corner going onto the back straight. There's a cement wall. There's a lot of hazards, and they realized that, for the safety of their riders, they had to make a way. And that's when, at the time, the treasurer, Frank Berthold, he decided to take a loan out in his own name. And OMRRA agreed to pay him back. They did over several years, and of course he charged no interest. But I think that is just kind of a testament to how our organization, our volunteers, our board members really are dedicated to the club and dedicated to the safety of our racers.
I would say, anything that is, a danger is an impact zone, right? An immovable object. And so, you can see at PIR we've got some walls, and some of these are in spots that are a little bit less safe than others. And so we've got some air fence there. That's protecting us for when we're coming out of the chicane, in case a rider in a motorcycle continues on straight, has some sort of accident. That air fence back there is there to protect the rider from that wall. And that tire wall that's out there, I've actually impacted a tire wall that wasn't protected by an air fence, and it is quite hard. You impact that with a lot of severity, and your body feels it. So the air fence is there to just absorb that energy and just add that, that significant level of cushion there. So yeah, all of this out here is kind of the traditional tire wall, great for cars, but not so great for motorcycles. When it comes to like turn 9, I think earlier this year, Philip Haranica had a pretty good one where he smacked the air fence pretty hard. His bike actually went up over the tire wall. I've seen multi-bike incidences where where multiple bikes ended up and riders ended up in the air fence. I watched Carson Petrovic put himself into an air fence in turn 9, because turn 9 is fairly close, like where the air fence is. It's fairly close to the racing line, and so turn 5. This is a perfect example of like where you'd want to have air fence right here. So with this one, if you were to basically continue straight on right into this impact zone, you're heading at this wall at a fairly high rate of speed, and that air fence right there is protecting the spot where the rider is most vulnerable from impacting the wall. We're coming up on a lapped rider, and we split through here, and I actually ended up riding my R6 through the little area that drops down on the other side of the curbing, trying to make a fairly ambitious pass. So these are the air fence bales. So they're they're individual bales. They're strapped together, and so they are like a rubberized vinyl. And then they've got the straps that hold them together, and that's essential to their function. And that's one of the things that the air fence guys have to replace and maintain all the time, or things like the straps, you know, all the other safety systems that go with it. Because if you don't have these securely strapped and installed correctly, they can move. You can end up with bikes and riders going in between or underneath. And so it's kind of all these pieces work together as a system to have this big wall that is energy absorbent. And you can see, I mean, when you hit it like that, I mean, it's got some give. And this is, I mean, these are thick. I don't know exactly how deep they are, but I mean, you're talking something that's about roughly 4 feet deep, and it absorbs that energy of the rider in a way that is kinder and gentler than just hitting a stack of tires with a bit of rubber in between it, in front of it. So we've got the straps here that they've got it strapped to the wall, and then up top here, these are the vents that we were talking about earlier. That this is full of just foam blocks and air, effectively. And so when the rider impacts this, it compresses that air, and then these vents are designed to release that air in a controlled manner, so that when it compresses kind of in a controlled fashion, and then so the air comes out these vents at a specific rate, you know, so they can have that energy absorption. And they do get damaged, you know. I mean, hitting this is rubberized vinyl, and you know, you hit it hard with a motorcycle, and it gets damaged or destroyed. And sometimes they can be repaired, but often they need to be replaced. And so that's one of those things that it's not a buy it one time and have it forever. You know, these have a lifespan, and then they have to be replaced, and they're expensive. And I know when we purchase them in significant quantities, just because that's the way it makes sense to purchase them. You know, if we didn't have this air fence, we've got this wall here, and I can promise you, you know, even though it's all made out of rubber and tires and whatever, I mean, if you hit this at a high rate of speed, or any rate of speed, this is unforgiving. It feels like you've hit a concrete wall. And this is meant to absorb the energy of a car and not be damaged too badly by being hit by a car. And this is not, which, I mean, it's better than a concrete wall, but this is not where you want to be impacting with your body. Because you can see it's just a stack of old tires that have been strapped together and a layer of rubber, and it's unforgiving.
I can personally tell you, I crashed into turn 6, the wall, on my 600. It went underneath the air fence, my bike did, and they had to pull it out, and I was consumed by the air fence. Another rider, actually, his bike went on top of the air fence. And I can definitely say, if that air fence wasn't there, I might not be here. It's not only saved my life, but many, many other racers here that have had pretty hard crashes into that air fence.
Our air fence crew strategically puts this stuff in places that that we have these, you know, these high impact zones like this. You know, so coming out of turn 4 into 5, I mean, you'd be you know, wide open throttle through here. You're going to be going pretty fast, and there's potential for you know, riders trying to pass each other. They might touch. Somebody might get shot off into here, into this direction, and this area right here, I mean, is significantly safer, and this track is significantly safer because of this air fence. And you know, there's no perfect racetracks. I mean, some racetracks have a lot more runoff areas than others. Portland, in a lot of areas, doesn't have amazing amounts of runoff. We've got a lot of walls. We're a Portland City Park. So with that, you know, there comes you know, this is built with a specific set of kind of restrictions, I would say.
If you go to any of the board meetings, you hear this, like, they talk about the crashes. What, you know, who crashed last weekend? Where did they crash? Did they crash into air fence? Did they crash someplace else? Is that an area that we might want to think about air fence, especially if somebody was really hurt? is that an area we could put air fence? Because there's some areas that we just can't put air fence because it would be a hazard, it would be in the way of the race line.
We lost Kelly Johnson, and that effect on that community was super, super hard. And you know, she's somebody that we all think about all the time. And for somebody like myself, it makes me spend extra time, you know, thinking about how we do things, you know, and what we do, because something like that is truly tragic. Like that day, and that experience is something I'll never ever forget.
Kelly was one of my personal friends. I raced against her competitively. One of my first overall championships I actually won was on middleweight classic superbike with her on a 600. I was first, she was second, and Jason Iverson was third. We were the trio that year. Funnest racing, I tell you, funnest racing. I don't believe the culture was the same back then on being a good racer and being, I guess, safe around other racers and making sure that, you know, when you pass safely.
It was Mother's Day 2017 at a PIR. It was the ultra lightweight superbike race. It was actually the last superbike race that OMRRA ever had. And it was Sunday, last race of the day, last lap, last corner, turning onto the front straight. And, we come out of turn 9 and my friend Kelly was trying to make a pass for the lead. She didn't realize how far she was drifting out and towards the wall on the outside of the track, which is concrete. And once she realized how close she was, and the rider she was trying to pass, she realized there was no room. So she ended up tipping up, bumping into the rider in front, which then in turn stood her up. So once she contacted the wall, things ensued from there. Things are bouncing off my bike that are coming off of hers or whatever, and right about the pedestrian bridge at PIR, her bike shot out right in front of me, and I T-boned it at about 90 miles an hour. She struck the fence post, and that ended up taking her life. So I went about 120 feet from where I hit her bike, and luckily I was okay. It took a long time to really just to process it and figure things out, and it still affects me to this day, you know. So I knew that Kelly wouldn't want any of us to quit racing because of a mistake that she made.
And I think, you know, some certain racers were a little overly competitive and didn't realize that this is club racing. You know, this is not Moto America, this is not MotoGP. Since her death, we've had a positive impact on changing that culture. We are definitely not all the way there.
God, Kelly is just freaking full of energy, just a good person. I mean, you know, yeah. But just happy and just exciting. And then the following week, I heard that she passed, and that I don't know how else to say it. It really sucks, man. It bothers me because I know there's nothing I could have done, but I wasn't there for it.
The incident with Kelly and her loss, it was hard on the community, but I think in many ways it did bring people closer. You know, the people that were closer in that circle. You know, we've chosen to never forget her, right? And that's something that, I mean, you even see on Austin's toolbox there. He's got the little 303 that's right there. I'm not sure if you caught that earlier, but yeah, that was her race number, and that's what that is for. That, you know, she will always be remembered. You know, she's just an exuberant person that was so enthusiastic, you know, and everything that she did, you know, she put in so much commitment to, and was just, you know, she's fun and somebody that always had a smile on her face and would always put a smile on somebody else's face. And even when, you know, even there are hard times in racing, and you have hard days, and you have troubling experiences with other people from time to time, and even through that, you know, kept her grace.
To me, that's what's most important, is that, we are all safe out here, that, none of my friends, come out here and they die out here. We're out here to have fun. We're not out here, to be so competitive that we don't see that somebody's life is at risk.
When I first started racing, actually, I ended up just inadvertently pitting next to her, and then we ended up, it was just the practice kind of every race round. We did an endurance race together, and she raced my R6 at one point. I loaned it out to her for a race.
Boy, she was a spitfire. Yeah, I think people wouldn't think I was so bad if she was still around. But yeah, she spoke her mind. She was just very full of life and very boisterous and very assertive. She was a very skilled rider, very, very skilled rider. And there were times I made passes on her, and I came into the pits and I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry about that one. Like on the last lap, I'm sorry, I stuffed ya. And she was like, no man, that was rad. And I was like, okay, there you go, that's Kelly.
Plenty of people that I know that have stopped racing not because they got hurt, but because one of their friends got seriously hurt or one of their friends was killed.
OMRRA realizes this as well. We're not out here to make so much money that we put racers' lives at risk. We need to invest in our organization for safety. We need to invest in air fence. We need to invest in asset and making sure that our riders are wearing the appropriate gear, and we need to invest in our culture.
Normally, to be out on the racetrack, you have to go through a race class, you have to have a race bike, the bike's got to be prepped and all that. TOR is something we do at lunchtime for a street rider for 20 bucks. We let you out there on the track, you have to have full gear. We look at your bike before you go. We have controlled riders out there to kind of control the pace, so you can actually ride your bike at speed if you want to, in a safer location. Kind of feel a little bit about how it is. But if they fall down out there, I still have to go get them.
Yeah.
And crashing a race bike is a little different than crashing a street bike, because the race bikes are normally prepped for just in case they do crash, where these bikes, if they crash, not the case.
I started in 2017 with the Taste of Race. Just take it easy when you go out there. There's no need to rush, learn the track and do all that before you go out and try and go full throttle.
Taste of Racing is kind of interesting because you have all these street riders and you hear things that you don't normally hear from a racer, like, how do I get home now? How do I get to work? Stuff like that. Does insurance cover this? Well, their bike is all broken, and they rode their bike here, type of stuff, or this their only transportation. So, all the racers here know the risk, plan for it. Just you plan for what happens if. A lot of the Taste racers, you hear them saying, "Oh, I've done 150 on the freeway before." Well, you don't have a corner on the freeway like this, so it's different.
All right, Taste of Racing. This is just a taste of racing. This is a sample of getting on the track. Do not bite off more than you can chew. All right, just have a little bit of fun. Today's focus is on safety. Clear your head and feel free at any moment. I got 20 bucks in my pocket. I will give 20 bucks for the first person that decides this is not their day to be on the track. If you want to come off, by all means do that. But get your head in the space of riding with motorcycles on the track. If you don't feel comfortable, if somebody spooks you, today's focus is safety. Talk to me, talk to the rider. We're all grown-ups. Let's handle it like adults. But I will gladly give you 20 bucks if you don't feel like today is your day.
Guys don't like it when girls are faster than them. That's plain and simple. I don't know if there's any bad lessons to learn while riding. Like, there's just a lot of hard lessons. This last crash, I've replayed it in my head over and over and over again of what exactly happened, what I could have done differently, because I definitely don't want to repeat it.
It was obvious that there was likely to be some traumatic injury there because of the way that the gear rode when we looked at it. I mean, she hit her face and skidded on the pavement, right?
I should have gone out with my brake lever, should have been where I'm comfortable with it. I came in prior to that. I knew better. I knew to fix it, and I just second-guessed myself that day.
It was pretty obvious to the first responders when they got there that this was not going to be a minor off. But you adjust the schedule, you take the time that you need to take. I mean, you let the medics make the call they need to make, and you just get it done.
I broke 6 ribs on my right side, I lacerated my liver, and I had 2 punctured lungs. They downgraded me from ICU into regular, and then they got me out that day. Was I ready that day? Nah, I don't know, because the next day I went back to Arlington Hospital because I was in so much pain.
I think everybody also felt the temperature in the air after those and then kind of brought it back a little bit, and the whole rest of the day went flawlessly.
The airbag suit, I wasn't wearing it that day because I'm waiting for my replacement suit, because the suit that they had given me had washed off all my like sponsors and stuff. Had washed the logos, had washed off. The suit had an error, you know what I mean, like in printing and stuff. So I wasn't wearing it that day, and it probably would have saved me from all these broken ribs that I have. As soon as I'm healed, I'm gonna get back on that bike, so I don't have that fear.
We had 30-ish riders here for TOR this lunch, like a huge pack, which I give DC a lot of credit for heading up that effort. There was a hunger for it. We had to cancel it because of the incidents this morning, cut the schedule down, didn't have enough time, yada, yada. I told them, I said, look, if you're feeling generous and you don't want to care about your money, your 15, 20 bucks, you can leave it, consider it a donation. It goes into our injured rider fund. We send money to riders, whether they ask for it or not. Like, if you get carted out of here, we're writing you a check to help, you know, gas and co-pays and food, and your family maybe need to travel or whatever, right? It's a few $100. It's not huge, but it's something. I said, that's what that money goes to. It goes to air fence, it goes to safety. Like, we don't use it to pay track bills and, you know, buy me a steak dinner. Like, that's what that money's for. I said, and come back tomorrow and we'll make this right. We'll run TOR again and yada, yada, yada. So I come back like an hour later or something like that, and my registration person comes over, Danielle, and she goes, only 3 people asked for a refund. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I've never seen any of these people before. They're just a part of the riding community. They came out here to spend some money and get some track time. We're yarking that from them, you know, unfortunately. It feels terrible to do. And the way that they respond is like, it's going to a good cause. Hopefully we see you tomorrow, otherwise we understand, and to ride off in peace.
Life is way more important. It should be 100% of a priority over racing. And again, if you want to wrap that into everything else, being a novice, being an expert, just out here having fun, this is club racing. You're not winning anything. You're winning a medal in bragging rights, which, don't get me wrong, which is a great time. Standing on a podium is wonderful. That's a wonderful feeling.
I'd done a few track days before. I was about to start my first season of racing, and this is my first time riding a modern leader bike, and I thought it was a really cool opportunity, and I think it was maybe the last session of the day. I'm, again, trying to find where those limits are at, going a little faster, and I came into turn 9, a little bit more roll speed than before, folded the front. I've known some people that have raced their whole road race career without having crashed once, and I've known some that it's pretty common for them to crash, and I'm happy to be a little bit more on the side of a less frequent crasher. I think it's unsettling as a rider if you have a crash that you don't understand, because then you can't learn from it, and then it's kind of hard the next time you go through that same corner or that same section of track. It's hard to have the confidence to know where the limit is if you don't understand where the mistake came from. Like, I'll have a chat with my brother or with Oliver or with Dan and Dale, like somebody around me who's an experienced rider that can help give me some feedback to understand it, and as long as I learn something from it, then it's not so bad. I would say the judgment between a rider's ears is the biggest thing. If you can make good judgments out there, odds are you're going to avoid hitting the deck. But let's be real, there's times where we make errors in that judgment. There's some times where there might be something beyond our control, that a rider makes a mistake in front of us that we can't avoid, or a mechanical issue. And that's where the modern technology of safety gear has come such a long way. My dad tells the story when he started racing here with my uncle. They shared a leather jacket, and it would zip to their leather pants. And they just had one jacket between the two of them. And my dad had a mechanical down in turn 3 or 4, like the furthest point from the pits. And my uncle was in the next race. And so my dad ran back to the pits, hot day, drenched in sweat. And I think my uncle's race had taken off by then. My dad comes running up, gives my uncle this sweat-soaked jacket that my uncle now has to put on, and he goes out and has to do the next race. And I think after that, they made the decision to each purchase their own jackets. Anytime you make a mistake at all in life, like, it's easy to be insecure and to try to deflect blame, but out here that doesn't help you. If you can't like weed through the actuality of what caused what you did, you're likely to go do it again. And we're sharing a racetrack with other people that we're riding very close with, and I don't want to make a mistake that causes somebody else to crash either. But there are some that like that risk evaluation and that self-reflection kind of seems missing, and it's like I give those riders a wider berth because there's less trust to be had with them and more likely to make a mistake. And for cost reasons or injury reasons, a lot of times those riders don't stick around as long. And I think it's an important part of sustaining being a rider over the long term to have good self-assessment skills so that you don't repeat your mistakes. The worst can happen out here doing this stuff. And as a racer, you don't want to dwell on that, because when you're out there, you need to be fully focused on the moment. You have to kind of like assess the risk and reward elsewhere. And then once you've made an informed decision on that, then it's time to focus on doing the job. But if there's ever been a situation where there's been severe injury or death, like it's really hard, because nobody wants to see that reality come to play. And there's always a bit of a reflection that comes with that. And for me so far, I've always made the choice to continue coming back.
The team here, my friends, my family, some people who've been with me since day one. And man, I don't know when I started racing that I ever thought I would end up here, and to be here now is really special. I just want to say thanks to you all. Thanks so much.
It's a false sense of security. We do the best we can to be as safe as we can. I mean, everybody tries to be the safest as we can, but in our sport, there's no guarantees, just like in life. I mean, we could literally just walk out here and just die of a damn heart attack.